You're standing on the deck of a rusted supply ship, 5 miles off the coast of Galley, Sri Lanka. The sun hasn't come up yet, but the humidity is already a physical weight on your chest. You are 34 years old. 3 months ago, you were a Royal Marine or a Navy SEAL, wondering how your skills in a desert or a forest would translate to a world that is 70% water. You didn't apply for a job, you applied for a transit. You are surrounded by black waterproof Pelican cases. Inside those cases are semi-automatic rifles, thousands of rounds of ammunition, and ballistic vests that feel like lead in this heat. You aren't part of a navy anymore. There is no destroyer escorting you. There is no air support. There is only a piece of paper in your pocket, a contract with a private maritime security company that says you are a privately contracted armed security personnel, PCASP. The man standing next to you is a vetting officer. He doesn't look at your medals. He looks at your seaman's discharge book and your yellow fever vaccination card. He checks your STCW certificates, basic safety training for life at sea. He wants to know if you can survive a fire in an engine room or a sinking ship in the middle of the night. You board a pilot boat that smells of old fish and diesel. You are heading toward a massive container ship that looks like a floating skyscraper. As you look up at the black steel hull, you realize the scale of the task. You are one of 4 men hired to protect $1 billion worth of cargo and 25 crew members who don't speak your language. You climb the pilot ladder, 70 feet of rope and wood swaying over a churning ocean. When you reach the deck, the captain is waiting. He doesn't smile. He doesn't want you there, but his insurance company demanded it. He looks at your rifle case with suspicion. To him, you are a necessary evil. To the pirates 300 miles to the west, you are the only reason they won't be able to hijack this ship. You earn $300 today. For the next 20 days, you will live in a cabin the size of a closet. You will eat frozen food and drink lukewarm water. You have entered the world of the pirate hunters. You have stepped off the land and into the high-risk area. The clock is ticking, and the horizon is empty, for now. The transition from the pilot ladder to the deck is the moment your life becomes defined by a single line, the horizon. You are now a Tier 2 maritime security guard. In the world of private military contractors, this is the entry level, the grunt of the high seas. You are earning roughly $350 to $450 a day, but every cent of that is paid for with sweat and salt water. Your reality is now a 12-hour shift cycle, 6 hours on, 6 hours off. You stand on the bridge wing, the narrow outdoor walkway protruding from the ship's command center. The heat in the Indian Ocean or the Gulf of Aden is not like heat on land. It is a wet, salty blanket that corrodes everything it touches. Within 3 days, your rifle has a thin film of rust. Within 5 days, your skin is cracked and white with salt. Your equipment is minimal but heavy. You wear a half-rack tactical vest with 4 magazines of 5.56 ammunition. You carry a set of high-powered marine binoculars and a handheld radio. You are not there to be a commando. You are there to be a visual deterrent. The captain has ordered the crew to harden the ship. You spend your first 48 hours helping them wrap the entire perimeter of the deck in razor wire. You look at the freeboard, the distance from the water to the deck, and realize that a determined pirate with a bamboo ladder could be on board in less than 30 seconds. Your job is to make sure they never get that close. The boredom is a physical enemy. You spend hours staring at the blue-on-blue transition where the sky meets the sea. You look for skiffs, small, high-speed open boats made of wood or fiberglass. Every whitecap on a wave looks like a wake. Every piece of floating debris looks like a pirate ladder. Your mind begins to play tricks on you in the shimmering heat. Then you see it, a small blip on the horizon. It isn't moving like a fishing boat. It's moving fast, cutting across your bow. You don't reach for your rifle yet. You reach for your binoculars. You are looking for the visual ID. Are there fishing nets? No. Are there multiple outboard motors? Yes. Are there more than 4 men on board? Yes. You key your radio. Bridge, this is portside watch. I have a suspect craft, bearing 220, distance 4 miles, closing fast. The ship's whistle blasts, one long, deafening roar that signals master under attack. The crew begins to run toward the citadel, a reinforced steel room deep inside the ship where they will hide if the pirates board. You stay on the deck. You are the only thing standing between those men in the skiff and a $20 million ransom. You don't fire, not yet. You show your weapon. You wave a flare. You follow the rules for the use of force, RUF, printed on a laminated card in your pocket. You are a professional. If you kill a fisherman by mistake, you go to a prison in a country whose laws you don't understand. If you wait too long, you end up in a cage in the jungle. The skiff sees your silhouette. They see the sun glinting off your optics. They turn away. The adrenaline fade is slow and cold. You realize for $400 a day, you just gambled your life against a group of desperate men you will never meet. You look at the team leader inside the air-conditioned bridge, talking to the captain and checking the radar. He isn't sweating. He's making $700 a day. And you realize to stop being a watchman, you have to start being a leader. You've stepped off the burning metal of the deck and into the air-conditioned hum of the bridge. You are now the team leader. You are no longer just a rifle on the rail. You are a tactical advisor to the master of the vessel. You are the link between the shipping company's lawyers and the 4 men standing guard in the salt spray below. The shift in status is immediate. You don't live in a shared cabin anymore. You have a small private quarters near the officer's deck. You earn $700 to $900 a day. But for that extra pay, you have traded the physical exhaustion of the watch for the mental exhaustion of the rules for the use of force. Your primary weapon isn't your rifle. It's your radio and your legal logbook. You spend your day on the bridge, hovering over the radar screen with the captain. You are watching for motherships, larger fishing dhows that have been hijacked and used as mobile bases for pirate skiffs. When a blip appears on the screen, the captain looks to you. He wants to know, is this a threat or is it a fisherman? If you call it wrong and order the ship to hard on, increase speed and maneuver, you cost the shipping company $50,000 in extra fuel and lost time. If you call it wrong and stay at cruising speed, you risk the ship being boarded before the crew can reach the citadel. You are the one who decides when to show, smoke, and shoot. Show. You order your team to stand in clear view with their weapons. Smoke. You fire a flare or a smoke grenade to warn the skiff they're being watched. Shoot. You authorize warning shots into the water. Every single action must be logged with a timestamp and a GPS coordinate. If a bullet hits a hull, you will be in a courtroom in London or Singapore 6 months from now, explaining your state of mind during those 11 seconds of chaos. You are managing a team of 4 veterans who are bored, hot, and aggressive. You have to keep them disciplined. You have to ensure they don't fire too early out of fear or too late out of complacency. You live in a strange middle ground. The captain treats you like an outsider because you represent the insurance company's lack of trust. The crew treats you like a ghost because your presence means their lives are in danger. Your team treats you as the boss, which means you can no longer join in their complaints about the food or the heat. At night, you sit in the bridge under the dim red glow of the instrument panel. You listen to the bridge-to-bridge radio, a constant chatter of SOS calls and sightings from other ships in the high-risk area. You hear the panic in a voice 300 miles away as a tanker reports ladders on the hull. You realize that you aren't just a guard, you are a shield for the global economy. But as you look at the fleet map on the company laptop, you see 30 other ships with 30 other teams. You see the man back in the floating armory or the office in Dubai who coordinated all of them. He is the one who knows where every pirate group is operating. He is the one who moves the pieces on the board. You realize that the bridge of a ship is still too small. You want to see the whole ocean. You've left the swaying deck and the cramped bridge behind. You are no longer responsible for one ship, you're responsible for the fleet. You are an area manager or a fleet lead. Your office is a floating armory, a massive converted deep-sea vessel anchored in international waters just outside the territorial limits of countries like Sri Lanka, Djibouti, or Oman. This is the hidden hub of the pirate hunting world. Around you are hundreds of rifles, thousands of sets of body armor, and teams of men waiting for their next transit. Your job is a logistical nightmare played out on a global chessboard. You manage the embarkation and disembarkation of teams. You coordinate with the agent on shore to get transit visas, weapon permits, and boat transfers. The pay has jumped to $1,500 a day, but you aren't paying it with sweat, you're paying it with sleep. You live on a ship that never goes to port. You spend 18 hours a day on satellite phones and encrypted messaging apps. You are the one who tells a team leader, the ship you're waiting for is 6 hours behind schedule. You're staying on that armory for another 3 days. You are the gatekeeper. You decide which team goes on the high-value oil tanker and which team goes on the low-priority bulk carrier. You deal with the floating armory politics, ensuring that the weapons are serviced, the ammunition is accounted for, and the men don't lose their minds from the isolation. You are managing a revolving door of 300 veterans from 20 different countries. The stress is no longer about a skiff on the radar, it's about compliance. If a team leaves a rifle on a ship that enters a port where private weapons are illegal, you are the one who has to negotiate with a foreign government to keep your men out of prison. If a team leader reports a kinetic incident, a shooting, you are the first person to read the report. You have to decide if it was a clean shot before the lawyers see it. You are a diplomat of the high seas. You talk to the managers of the world's largest shipping lines in Copenhagen and Hamburg. You assure them that their cargo is safe because your men are on the bridge. You navigate the shifting high-risk area boundaries, moving your teams like pieces on a map to follow the pirate activity. At night, you stand on the deck of the armory and look at the lights of the other ships anchored around you. Each one is a fortress. Each one is a business. You realize that you have turned the ocean into a controlled environment. But as you look at the consultancy reports from the big firms in London, the ones who advise the UN and the IMO, you realize that while you manage the teams, they manage the strategy. They are the ones who define what security actually means. The transition to the fourth level takes you off the water entirely. You have traded your salt-stained tactical gear for a crisp navy blazer and a leather briefcase. You are no longer living on a ship. You're living in airport lounges and five-star hotels in London, Singapore, and Dubai. You are a maritime security consultant. You don't guard ships, you guard the interests of the companies that own them. At this level, you aren't thinking about a single skiff or a single team. You're looking at the macro view of global instability. You sit in boardrooms with insurance underwriters from Lloyd's of London and executives from global energy giants. Your job is to answer one question. Is it safe to send our billion-dollar vessel through these waters? You are a master of risk mitigation. You produce thick, classified reports that analyze satellite imagery, political shifts in coastal nations, and the seasonal patterns of monsoon winds that affect pirate activity. You provide the security audit that determines whether a shipping line's internal procedures are enough to lower their insurance premiums. A single yes or no from you can save a corporation $5 million in a single week or cost them $10 million if you're wrong. You earn $2,000 to $3,000 a day, often on short-term retainer contracts. You're an advisor to the United Nations or the International Maritime Organization, and you help draft the best management practices, or BMPs, that every ship in the world follows to stay safe. You are the one who explains to a CEO why they need to spend an extra $50,000 on cybersecurity for their navigation systems, or why a specific private team is no longer vetted for their fleet. The stress is cerebral. You are navigating the gray zones of international law. You know which territorial waters allow armed guards and which will arrest them on sight. You coordinate with national navies, the gray hulls, to ensure that private security teams and government warships aren't tripping over each other. You are a diplomat, a legal expert, and a strategist. You live a life of high-stakes isolation. You are no longer one of the boys on the deck, and you aren't quite a corporate executive. You are a specialist whose phone rings at 2 a.m. because a ship has been hijacked and the kidnap and ransom negotiations are about to begin. You are the one who sits in the crisis room, listening to the digital recording of a pirate's demands, translating the chaos into a strategy. As you sit in a glass-walled office overlooking the Thames or the Singapore Strait, you see the entire global supply chain as a fragile web. You see how a few men in a fiberglass boat can bring the world's economy to a halt. And you realize that the man who owns the firm, the one who built the infrastructure you are advising on, is the only one who truly understands the end game.
The final transition doesn't happen at sea. It happens in a boardroom overlooking the Thames in London or a glass skyscraper in Dubai. You are no longer wearing a life jacket or tactical blazer. You are wearing a bespoke suit that cost more than your first year's salary as a guard. You are the CEO of a Tier 1 maritime security firm. You don't hunt pirates anymore. You manage the global market of fear. At this level, you aren't thinking about rifles or radars. You are thinking about market share, lobbying, and geopolitical risk. You are the one who sits across from the ministers of defense in coastal nations, negotiating the legal frameworks that allow your floating armories to exist. You are the one who convinces insurance conglomerates to keep the high-risk area, HRA, designation active, because if the ocean is declared safe, your multi-million-dollar revenue stream vanishes overnight. Your day is a high-speed chase of a different kind. You spend your mornings on calls with private equity investors who see maritime security as a high-yield asset class. You spend your afternoons in closed-door sessions with government officials, advising them on how to outsource their naval patrols to your private fleet. You aren't selling protection. You are selling continuity of commerce. You are telling a global oil giant that for $50 million a year, you can guarantee their tankers will never stop moving, no matter how many civil wars break out on the coast. The pay is no longer a daily rate. It is dividends, equity, and performance bonuses that reach 7 figures. You live a life of extreme luxury, private jets, exclusive clubs, and a network of contacts that spans every continent. You have reached the absolute ceiling of the maritime world. You are the one who signs the master contracts that send thousands of men, veterans who look exactly like you did 20 years ago, onto the swaying ladders of cargo ships in the middle of the night. But the weight at this level is cold and silent. You are the one who decides the rules for the use of force that your men must follow. You are the one who signs the insurance payouts when a transit goes wrong. You see the world's oceans not as beautiful wilderness, but as a series of trade corridors that must be policed for profit. You realize that you have successfully turned one of the oldest professions, mercenary work, into a clean, corporate, and highly scalable global service. You look out at the harbor from your office window and see the massive container ships coming in. To everyone else, they are just ships. To you, they are units under your protection. You realize that the pirate hunter has become the maritime architect. You have built a world where the sea is only as safe as the client is willing to pay. And as you check the latest intelligence brief on a new conflict in the Red Sea, you realize that for your business, the horizon has never looked brighter. You are sitting in a high-back leather chair in a corner office that overlooks a harbor. The glass is thick enough to block the sound of the wind, but you can still see the massive container ships moving slowly toward the horizon. The air in the room is filtered, cool, and smells faintly of expensive mahogany. You have reached the summit.
You have climbed every rung of the maritime hierarchy, from the salt-crusted deck to the executive suite. But the silence in this office is different from the silence you felt on the bridge wing 10 years ago. That silence was filled with the spray of the ocean and the anticipation of a skiff. This silence is filled with the weight of every contract you've signed and every rules for the use of force memo you've authorized. You think about the $300 gateway. You remember the feeling of that first pilot ladder, the rough hemp rope against your palms, and the dizzying drop to the black water below. Back then, your world was simple. Protect the ship, watch the horizon, stay alive. Now your world is a complex web of insurance premiums, legal liability, and geopolitical lobbying. You don't have a rifle anymore. You have a board of directors. You look at the photos on the wall. There is a picture of you as a young man standing in front of a floating armory with a group of veterans. You are all smiling, tanned, and wearing worn-out tactical gear. You realize you haven't spoken to any of those men in 5 years. Some of them are still on the decks, chasing the $400 a day dream. Some of them didn't make it home, and you are the one who processed the insurance claims for their families. You have spent 2 decades becoming the consultant, and then the CEO. You traded the physical adrenaline of the high seas for the cold power of the boardroom. When people at charity galas ask what you do, you talk about maritime risk logistics. It sounds clean. It sounds professional. It sounds boring. And just like the analyst in the windowless room, you want it to sound boring. Because the truth that you have built a fortune on the instability of the world's oceans is not a conversation for polite company. The question the woman in the folder asked so long ago still sits in the back of your mind. Would you become someone else entirely? You did. You traded your name for a corporate title. You traded the brotherhood of the crew for the isolation of the executive. You are a master of a world that 99% of the population forgets exists until their gas prices go up or their shipping is delayed. You pick up a fountain pen and sign a new operational authorization for a fleet transit through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. There is a new threat reported this morning. Drones, not skiffs. The game is changing again. You don't hesitate. You sign it because the global economy never sleeps, and neither does the need for someone to watch the water. You have reached the end of the pirate-hunter hierarchy, only to realize that the ocean is the same as it was 20 years ago. Vast, indifferent, and always waiting for the next man to climb the ladder and say yes.